Person who will be talking to you. Before I talk about the subject, what is going to happening, as usual, I'll take 1 or 2 minutes to remind you about some of the brilliant event what's happening this month, not to be missed event, so that if you have missed your inbox, can you block your diary and attend? We have got some outstanding international speaker on 16th of January. That is on next Saturday. We have customer centricity across product, service, and digital. We have 3 outstanding international speakers who will be talking to us. Mr. Vivek Mathur, mentor advisor, is a Cosmos strategy consultant. And we have Sushant Dash. Sushant is the president of India and Middle East, Tata Global Beverages. And we have Ram Iyer. Ram Iyer is the worldwide director, digital strategy, consumer channel marketing, and e-commerce from Microsoft USA, Seattle. They'll be talking on another interesting subject, what's really concerning many of them. It's happening at 16 January at 6 o'clock in the evening. And I was to tell you, Ram Iyer is joining us from Seattle, and it's 4:15 in the morning. Look at the passion of the gentleman to come and share his insight. I urge upon you to come and listen to him. I think I'll walk miles to listen to Ram Iyer. Then on 25th of January, we have another interesting program, which is very relevant, the fitness habit of successful CEOs. Though we are talking about successful CEOs, I think everybody should have the fitness habit, because we talk quite a bit, like even today's program, it's all relevant to the fitness, because today, little later, we talk about why fitness is so essential. Again, we have 3 outstanding international speakers. Professor Gautam Ahuja. Gautam Ahuja is a professor of management and organization from Cornell University, USA. Then we have Nand Kishore. He was former head of Asia, Africa, Oceania, and Nestle worldwide from Switzerland. He's also now professor with the Indian School of Business, Chandigarh. Then we got Lakshmi Narayan Pandit. He is a former managing director of SHL India, and now he's the chief executive, Pinnacle Leadership. It's an interesting conversation going to be happening at 6 o'clock, Saturday, 25th January. Then on 28th, we have a digital transformation and business and how the cybersecurity impact. Mr. Ravi Shankara is going to be talking to us. And on 29th, again, we have an interesting event, Women in Leadership and Future Perspectives. We have an outstanding woman leader, Abanti Shankar Narayanan. She is Chief Strategy Corporate Affairs Officer from Diageo. Diageo is one of the largest liquor manufacturing company you all know in the world. And the lady is heading the strategy. So it's a very interesting thing for you to listen to her, how the woman breaking the glass ceiling. I don't think anymore, there's no more glass ceiling for women, but just listen to it, it's outstanding. Then again, on 30th January, again, we have a leader speak series of Ponce Veterans by Debak Chandani. He'll be talking to us from Singapore on another very relevant thing. Coming to today's topic, which is very relevant, and I was really happy we are indeed privileged to MMA to host this launch of this book. Yoga also is for the godless, because we strongly believe a healthy nation is a happy nation. A healthy nation, I think we shouldn't be bothering about allocation for healthcare and many things, because so many issues will get resolved. But the subject is also very relevant to think, and we have really indeed blessed to have Swamiji's spiritual guru, Sri M, will be talking to us along with Suresh, Raman, Padmanabhan. What the event will be as for the procedure, what we'll follow. I'll briefly introduce all the 3 distinguished the speakers and the panelists for this evening. Thereafter, I look at Sir, Mr. M, to launch the book officially. And thereafter, he'll talk about the book, and he'll also talk about his wisdom of not necessarily to the book, because very rarely you get an opportunity, sir, to get a speaker like you to come and speak. We have a large number of viewers who will be watching this program live from various social media portals. I warmly welcome the viewers on Zoom, where we have a limited thing, whereas we have our live IBC, our MMA webcast, then YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and we also have our own MMA radio. We have a large number of viewers who will be watching this program live on various social media portals. Very welcome to each one of you. As usual, if you have questions, please do send your questions. All those who are watching Zoom, you can type your question in the chat box, and Mr. M is more than happy, delighted to respond to your questions, because we want to make it more conversation. So keep asking your questions, will be to make the evening very interesting. And all viewers watching the program from YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, then as usual, there's a number flashed on your screen. Send your question or put in a chat box. We'll pick it up and pass it on to the Mr. Sri M sir to really respond to that. Let me have the privilege of introducing the distinguished speakers for this evening. Spiritual Guru Sri M, born as Mumtaz Ali in Thiruvananthapuram. He is also autobiography published in 2011, became a great bestseller. He is also author of various other books on philosophy, yoga, Indian system, much more. And he is CM established Satsang Foundation 20 years ago, and this mission has resulted in several initiatives in the area of education, community health, environment, and oneness of humanity, which is very, very essential today in the world. Among the many awards and honors, he has received Sri M. conferred Padma Bhushan by the Government of India in January 2020, very recently, and for distinguished service of very high order in spirituality. Very warm welcome to you, sir. We are indeed blessed to have you with us. And the other two gentlemen who are part of the panel for MMA audience really doesn't need an introduction, but I get a very rare chance to introduce them. Let me have the privilege of introducing Mr. Suresh Raman. He is alumnus of BITS Pilani, so leadership across the globe, and he was head of operations and all geographies, including regional director and head of Central Europe. And Suresh is also his current role as Vice President and Regional Head of TCH Chennai, manages over 70,000 people and his associates under his control in Chennai. And he holds a key honorary positions in a number of association organizations. But I'm going to mention a very important one place where he's a Vice President is Madras Management Association. He's the Vice President of MMA. And we also have with us a very warm welcome to Mr. Suresh. We also have with us Mr. K.M. Padmanabhan. Mr. K.M. Padmanabhan is a guest faculty of IIM Indore, IIM Raipur, and there's also a number of other universities. He teaches, trained as a faculty of IIM Ahmedabad and IIM Bangalore. He's also been trained as advanced strategic of case research, Harvard Business School, Boston and Harvard Strategy Center in China. He also served as independent director on ONGC and RINL, Navaratna Company, and a number of other organizations. Very warm welcome to Ms. Padmanabhan. Pleasure to have you with us. As I mentioned to you, the format of the event is, let me have the privilege of requesting Mr. M. Sir, to launch the book officially. Can I have the launch of the book on screen, please? Ladies and gentlemen, very warm. I request a distinguished panelist also to showcase their book after this for a group picture to officially launch the book. And yes. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for choosing MMA, sir, for launching your book. And we're all eagerly looking forward to hearing you. And over to Sri M, sir, please to address the audience. Thereafter, it will be a fireside chat conversation between you and the distinguished panelists. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Group Captain R. Vijay Kumar, VSM. Mr. Suresh Raman, Vice President, Regional Head of Tata Consultancy. Mr. K.M. Padmanabhan, ONGC and Rashtriya Ispat Nigam. Thank you for inviting me to this talk and discussion. Well, I would start with saying that this book was written, as the title indicates, not for the godless, but also for the godless. This is something I need to start with because some people just read it and say, oh, yoga for the godless. Well, I have some friends who like red color, who think it's only yoga for the godless, but it is yoga also for the godless. All I'm trying to say, I would like to go read out to you, not exactly read out, but kind of refer to a chapter in the first part of the book, sir, which is called Why This Book? You would wonder that yogis also need glasses sometimes, so I'm going to read it out. First, there's a quotation there which says, this is from the Mahabharata. There is no knowledge equal to Sankhya and no power equal to yoga. This is from the Mahabharata. What happened was, many years ago, I met a young lady and she said that, I think you're a yogi. You might be able to shed some light on yoga. She said, whenever I approach a yoga teacher, I once approached a yoga teacher, he started teaching me Sanskrit slokas in praise of God. I insisted that I come from a Krishnamurti background. I didn't write it here. I don't believe in all this stuff. I tried convincing him that I was an atheist, though I was born a Hindu. So she said, do you really believe, do you think it's necessary that I should first chant slokas on Ganesha? I said, 1 minute, I do, but you don't have to do, right? So she said, can I also practice yoga without any of these things? Is it possible to do that? So I told this person that people sometimes misunderstand this thing that yoga is meant only for people who are religious. Yoga is a science, like any other science. And the standard textbook that we have on yoga, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, that is exactly what I've done in this book. It's a sutra by sutra exposition of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. There's another excellent book, since Mr. Padmanabhan is sitting with Swami Vivekananda's picture at the back. There's a beautiful commentary on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali by Swami Vivekananda. It's called the Raja Yoga Sutras, where also he discusses this matter, which I have elaborated in this book. So, in the ancient country which we live in, what I'm trying to say, that you can be part of this country, you can be part of the Hindu culture without necessarily even believing in the concept of an Ishvara. This is what I'm not saying you should or should not. That's up to each person to decide, but you can still be. The ancient atheists were the Charvakas. Again, let me add, I'm not an atheist. The ancient atheists were the Charvakas. Before that, the most ancient darshana, you know that India has 6 darshanas of philosophy. Purva Mimamsa and on all these things, Vedanta, Sankhya, Yoga, and so these are all the darshanas, of which one of the most ancient darshanas is Sankhya. Now you know that Sankhya's author or the founder is supposed to be, is not supposed to be, Kapila, the great Muni Kapila. And Kapila is so important that in the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna describes his glories and says, among the mountains I am the Meru, among the Achalas I am the Himachala, among the Vedas I am the Samaveda, and so on, when it comes to Munis, he says, among the Munis I am Kapila. So you see how ancient Kapila is and how important a contribution there is to Hindu philosophy, or I'm saying the Hindu word without any connotations, Hindu philosophy. So, and Sankhya, the founder of Sankhya is Kapila, Kapila Muni. Very often when I go to the West, when I see blondes, I tell them that Kapila must have been like you, because the word meaning of Kapila is golden head. So anyway, we don't know where he came from, but he was a great person. And Kapila wrote the Sankhya Sutras. And many of even the Bhagavad has a chapter on Sankhya. Gita has a chapter on Sankhya. The word Sankhya means actually mathematics, words, figures, Sankhya, adding, subtraction, everything. It also means a school of philosophy. Why? Because here everything is done in a very systematic manner. And Sankhya is not a totally a monistic philosophy, it's a dualistic philosophy, because it believes that the world is Prakriti and there is consciousness, which is Purusha. And since Prakriti has completely covered the Purusha, if you can get free of the holes of Prakriti, then you realize that you are yourself the Purusha. And in Sankhya, there is no concept of Ishvara, except that Ishvara is supposed to be the primordial being of wisdom. He has no role in creation. He's not Brahma who creates and puts us into this miserable situation. Their Ishvara is the primordial wisdom from which anyone can draw wisdom. The ancient teacher is Ishvara. The Shaivites say Shiva, but we can say Ishvara. So this is the only concept of Ishvara available in Sankhya. However, in the Yoga Sutras, since yoga is a distinct darshana, school of philosophy, although it takes a lot of ideas from Sankhya, it's based on Sankhya. Ishvara is mentioned. I wouldn't say it's not mentioned. It's mentioned in only 3 places in the Yoga Sutras. And whenever it is mentioned, it said it's also possible through contemplation on Ishvara. Also is added. Ishvara pranidhanatvat means also through the attention on Ishvara, you can attain perfection in yoga also, which means there are other means also. That's the only place where Ishvara is mentioned. Now that Ishvara should be the Ishvara of Sankhya, because yoga is derived from that mostly. So what they're talking about is a primordial being with wisdom. Nothing to do with the creation. The Sankhyas and the yogis believe that creation is like what modern science says, comes out of chemical reactions and so on. Can you imagine 1,000 years ago? We are still thinking about it. Of course, the great Adi Shankara has some difference of opinion with Sankhyans and also with Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. We cannot disprove Adi Shankara because of uh, his spiritual experience and his intellectual capacity to interpret the scriptures. So, in this book, what I'm trying to say is that even if you don't have belief in a creator God or a God who's sitting high up in heaven with a whip in his hand and saying, if you don't do this, I will put you into hell or things like that. Even without such a belief, step by step, any intelligent person can practice yoga. You don't have to have the concept. Well, if you have a belief in God, that's okay. Yoga does not compulsorily need that. Yeah, it has a belief in Ishvara, yes. Now that Ishvara concept is primordial wisdom. And how is it connected to us? According to yoga, we also are Purushas. When I say Purusha, it doesn't mean male, okay, here. It means consciousness. Even females have Purusha in them. That means consciousness. And this conscious spark in us, the body is made up of Prakriti. Even the mind is made up of Prakriti. Yoga even believes that the brain, which is called the mind generally, because we don't have any other idea about the mind, is also made up of Prakriti, because yoga says the finest food that you eat, the finest particles of the food that you eat goes to form the mind, which means mind automatically becomes a material object. They're talking about the brain. The mind beyond the brain, which is consciousness, is different. Now, the theory of yoga, Yoga Sutras of Patanjali defines yoga as yogas chitta vritti nirodha. That's all. Yogas chitta vritti nirodha. First he starts by saying atha yoga anushasanam. Here begins the study of yoga. And then he says yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the stopping of the vrittis of the chitta, which means chitta means here the conscious mind, not consciousness pure, which is Purusha. The conscious mind with its thoughts, reactions, disturbances, tensions, opposites, this mind is chitta. Now, chitta cannot function without consciousness. That's a different chapter altogether. But this is chitta. And the yoga's definition is chitta vritti nirodha. Vrittis are the disturbances or the waves in the chitta. If one can, through practice, step by step, why it's called Ashtanga Yoga? Because there are 8 steps. Then the vrittis can be wiped out of the chitta. And the chitta, which is pure without any vrittis, then becomes the tarmac from where you can take off to the Purusha. In fact, the purified chitta no longer is chitta. It is a reflection of the Purusha, which is pure consciousness. This is all there is to it. Here, there is no belief system if is not required. Everyone is entitled to study this. At the end of it, when you touch the consciousness, if you find that it is Ishvara, it's up to you to decide. All I'm trying to say is you don't have to pre-conclude before you start. One of the reasons why I walked into Vedanta and the Hindu system of thought was because I didn't have to say I believe. I had to say I will find out. See, all the Upanishads are full of discussions, dialogues. In fact, there are Upanishads called Prashna Upanishad, Upanishad of questions, where the three students go to a rishi and ask him, Sir, we are sons of such and such rishis. We have come for knowledge to understand the truth. This is Prashna Upanishad. Can you please teach us the truth? And the answer is very interesting. The rishi says, stay with me for 3 months. At the end of it, I will teach you if I know. Can there be something more open, advanced than this kind of thinking, this kind of thought? So I want this book to help us to go into understanding the essence of yoga. And the Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters and each one is called yoga. So even though this is a description or interpretation of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, do not confine the word yoga only to this book or to Patanjali. The Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. 18 chapters, each one is called a yoga. Starts with Arjuna Vishada Yoga, first chapter, which means the yoga of Arjuna's confusion. So what does yoga mean? It means a method or a way by which you find your true self. Arjuna Vishada Yoga, yoga of Arjuna's confusion, Arjuna's failure, Arjuna's sorrow, because very often we look beyond the ordinary only when we are stuck by difficulties. Then the next one is Sankhya Yoga, and so on. I like to tell people who play golf, I'm sure some of you must be playing golf. I do. That 18 chapters, 18 chapters are like the 18 holes in a full-fledged golf league. And you know, if you do putting, you know how sensitive the thing is when you putt. If you hit too much, it goes off. If you touch softly, it may not go to the hole, it may roll back. So you see that this is attention, one-pointed attention. Now, yoga, therefore, is the method or scientific way of dwelling and exploring the capacities of the mind. Let's put it that way. This is what I'm trying to say in the book. At the moment, we can keep away all belief systems. There is no need. Well, if you have a belief system, there's no objection to that. Absolutely. Even if you don't, you can start by saying, okay, I'm going to explore. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, as each chapter ends, there is one sloka. It says, Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So this is the Bhagavad Gita, simple. Upanishads. It also says it is the study of the Upanishad, the essence of the Vedic wisdom. Brahma Vidyayam. What does the Upanishad teach? Knowledge of the Supreme Brahman. Now please, Supreme Brahman is not the creator Brahma. Okay. So, Brahma Vidyayam. The next word is Yoga Shastre. That means it is also the science of yoga, which means the science of yoga is necessary to understand Brahma Vidya, which is the wisdom of the Upanishad. Simply by saying Aham Brahmasmi, I will not become the Brahman. How can I? I am such a limited being. So how to make this limited mind unconditioned and at least have a glimpse of the unconditioned? This is the work of yoga. This is what yoga is all about. So therefore, like any other science, some discipline is followed. Yama niyamas are there, rules and regulations to be followed before we start the practice of yoga. So I think I will conclude here and not conclude, I'll stop with this because I've already been talking for so long, sorry. Now we can have an interaction. All questions are welcome.
Between Suresh and Padmanabhan, who would like to start? You can unmute yourself. And I've already received a couple of questions from our social media portals. Once you finish the conversation, maybe you can do that for another 30 minutes. Uh, for 10 minutes to 7, I'll go to that all the questions which has come in the social media.
Sure.
So over to you, Mr. Suresh and Mr. Padmanabhan.
Yeah. Shall I go?
Please go ahead.
Uh, so, good evening to all of you. It's a privilege to get into conversation with the spiritual guru Sri M. And along with the veteran and admired business leader Mr. Padmanabhan, who I know for quite a few years. Really privileged to be there. It is fantastic hearing you, sir, Sri M, sir, today. And I realized yogi is all about, I think, infinite energy and the mind at peace, as I think you mentioned in the last para of the introductory chapter. I think, I try to take the simple part of it because I'm not expert in this area. But definitely, I think one of the things from the corporate world we look at is energy, which is, I think, if energy is there, you can accomplish anything in life. I think that's a belief. At least I have very strong belief. And the mind at peace, of course, is very, very critical. I think, well, a lot of things are there in the book. I think the first chapter itself, these two things really stood up, and I was going through some of the things what is said in the book. And while I also strongly believe that after reading your yoga, about yoga and about what I read about your book and listening to you now, I feel this will help us evolve into a healthy nation, healthy organization, healthy family, and healthy individual itself, which is what it has to be aimed for. And healthy individual will lead to all those things: nation, organization, family, etc. So I think as an example, I think in TCS we actually we have this focusing on Panchakosa, 5 dimensions, and happy TCS, holistic well-being of employees, enabling individual transformation, excellence, whatever they do, etc. And purpose-driven, basically yoga for resilience.
Sir, can I? It's becoming a little inaudible. Can you increase your volume?
Yeah. Uh, okay, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So I think so we are looking at this Panchakosa, and we have something called Fit for Life. I think many organizations like TCS will have all these things. So I thought I will talk about that actually. Fit for
Sure.
Life, make it basically take care of the body and the yoga part also. A lot of people go through in TCS also. The intellectual dimension, purpose for life, which we service society, selfless ananda, what people try to achieve. For no reason, we try to make others happy. So in this context, I have something. While I think we believe strongly work is worship philosophy. I think being focused on the job, even forgetting food and sleep sometimes to deliver some critical solutions for customers from business perspective, from a MMA perspective itself or a TCS perspective. It's like meditating. Work is worship itself is like meditating. I think is it a good idea to bring out such aspects or analogies to ensure people appreciate yoga and can be made to realize that they can practice yoga and get rid of the inertia to learn yoga because they already work is worship. Some lot of people are doing a lot of things, great work.
I think yes. If we can have interactions with people belonging to uh, distinguished areas like consultancy services, of which you're mm, vice president and so on. See, the secret of work, you have explained in very brief manner what has been talked about 1,000 years ago, or at least 800 years ago in the Gita, that work is worship. Agreed. However, yoga also starts with asana, then pranayama, and so on, which means physical health is very important aspect of mental health. So, as long as one is not physically healthy, one has aches and pains and discomfort. One cannot even sit down and expand the mind. Mind is out of question. So, therefore, I think what puts people away from getting into yoga, this is what I'm trying to get out with this book,
Yeah.
to take it out, that somehow they're associated with some religion or some, and nowadays modern youth, the moment you talk about religion they get upset. One part is that. The other is this big gurudom thing, like if you want to practice be spiritual, then you have to worship the guru. Not required. See, in yoga, this is not required at all. So people get put off. I must tell you this little story. I went to, I travel a lot. So when once many years ago, I was in Phoenix, and the Hindu temple in Phoenix, they all joined together and invited me. And that day was Rasalila. There were lots of Gujaratis and all there. So they were doing the Rasalila. The youngsters were very happy. Then the parents told me, tomorrow can you meet our young people, all teenagers, boys and girls. Rasalila, they're all right. They come and dance and all. But they are very against our religious practices and our puja and all this. So can you please speak to them? I said, sure, I'll speak to them. So the next day they organized in one room. There were around, I think, 35, 36 young boys and girls and so on. And they were waiting for me to come. And it is interesting, the parents were also there. I walked in. I walked in. You know, when I go abroad, I don't want too much attention on myself. So, except for this thing on my head, there's nothing very special. There in the US and England, this even hippies have this kind of, so there's nothing to. And I usually go with clothes which are normal there. So I was wearing a pair of jeans. It was in Phoenix is not so cold, so I was wearing a t-shirt, and I walked in. So these boys and girls were sitting there waiting for the guru. Okay, so I walked in, and there's a table. The parents are sitting on either side, and there's a chair. I went and sat down there, and one of the children said, "This is for the guru." I said, "I am the one." So I sat. Then they looked very surprised. Then I said, "Your parents want me to talk to you about various factors about Hindu culture and your religion. Um, is it okay? Are you ready? I won't take much time." They said, "We are ready, but we would like our parents to go away." So I put folded hands. I requested them, "Please, can you stay out? Let me have a chat." They went out. I said, "What is the problem?" They said, "Sir, it is not that we are not interested. Every now and then they import some kind of weird character from India who comes here, and they say, go and touch his feet, fall. We can't do that. We are not interested. Why would we do that? If they talk sense, we are ready to listen. Sir, there is no problem." So I said, "Let's have a chat." I said, "Listen, from ancient times, gurus have been respected in India. So they're just, yeah, I know, but we don't want to do that. Can we meditate without doing all that?" In fact, at that time itself, the seed of this idea of this book came into my head. I said, "Okay, so let's have a chat." So I described to them what yoga is, what Vedanta is. Very happy. They went and told the parents, "From tomorrow, we are going to go every week to the temple and meditate." That at least about 15 to 20% of that. I won't say everybody said that. So this is the intention. First, keep your body healthy. This is what you expressed. Yes, keep your body healthy. There are ways and means to keep our body healthy. Yoga says this yoga is not for him who eats too much or eats too little, or sleeps too much or sleeps too little. This is from the Gita. Moderation. Moderation eating, moderation in everything. Practice of physical exercises, preferably yogasanas. Pranayam, to bring your mind, your prana into proper energy. You use the word energy. The word used in Sanskrit for energy is Shakti. And Shakti is intimately connected to prana, life energy. So pranayam is meant to put your prana into the proper condition so that your mind calms down. When your mind calms down, it expands. When it expands, it can think and understand things which it wouldn't have been able to do in that conditioned state. I remember Swami Vivekananda saying, someone told him that is meditation a hypnosis. He said, no, it is dehypnotizing yourself from the understanding that you have that you are a limited human being. You see, we actually have in us something very unlimited. We sometimes run out of ideas. People say that sometimes, very often. You cannot run out of, you know why you run out of ideas? Because you're still in that conditioned mind. You can uncondition it. So he said, Swami Vivekananda said, actually the study of Vedanta is dehypnosis, where you are actually lions, but you think that you're sheep. He also gave a little story about this, which we don't have much time, so I can't tell you the story. It's about a lion, a pride of lions that attacked a group of sheep near the forest, near the farm. And in the melee, one of the little lion cubs were left with the sheep. The others went off. And the sheep brought up this little cub. And it became a huge lion, but it was still bleating. And whenever it saw lions, it used to run away. So one day, these lions caught him by the neck and took him and showed him in the pond, said, look at your face. Are you a sheep? He looked, he said, no, I'm like you. They said, roar, don't bleat. So he roared. And he began unconditioning the mind. You know, this is the essence of yoga. So I personally feel, I'm not advising you, sir, you must be already doing it. I think you should introduce the practice of yoga in to the employees and to all the people, especially the executives. You will see that bright, brilliant ideas suddenly pop up. Uh, I know maybe you're doing it, but it's possible to do it. And plus, they will not say that today I'm tired, I have to give up. There will be energy all the time. You know, I'm 72 years old. I don't think I have any symptoms of 72. Usually people say, oh, I can't get up and take that, take this. Nothing. And you know why? Because from the age of 10, I've been practicing yoga. Till today. Today morning also I did 45 minutes, which includes some chanting and so on. If somebody doesn't like chanting, that's okay. But in this book I have described, you can chant even without belief because it's an energy component. It's nothing to do with belief. It's a fact. Like Om, for instance. Don't think of Om as a denominational sound. Om is an universal sound, and you can bring about a lot of change in yourself and others just by chanting Om. Don't even think, oh, it is religious, and forget about that. So,
So I think you mentioned about this and TCS. Actually, our company also, as you rightly said, we are encouraging a lot of yoga practitioners. Yogic counseling sessions are there. We are employees have taken up yogic certifications as well. At least 400 have taken up, and 7
very
have
nice.
completed MSc in yoga. So a lot of encouragement is there. So I think, what are your recommendations that we could do to improve the happiness index itself? Is one question. Should we explore something like also a spiritual quotient, like the
Yes,
way people talk about IQ, intelligent quotient, and EQ, emotive quotient? So spiritual quotient is probably one thing which can be propagated. Is my take.
yes, yes, sir. Spiritual quotient here. Let me try and explain to you my ideas about this to make them understand, to make people understand that in all human beings there is already a spiritual quotient. There is something spiritual in us, our consciousness. We have neglected it for long, but it is there. And once you touch that, it is the source of all the energy that flows in. This is our spiritual quotient, and it doesn't matter what your name is, who you are, Amar, Akbar, Anthony, doesn't matter. It's there because we are human beings, we are conscious, we have energy, so everybody is the same. We are born from the same womb of a woman, and we die and go to the same earth. I mean, so that is the spiritual quotient which has to be worked out. And if you have any idea, or if you want me, I am ready to come and talk to your. I have talked to ONGC a couple of times in Delhi, Bombay, many places. I'm always ready to have a short talk as introductory talk, after which then it's up to them to how they work, up to you to how they work it out. It's important. There should be a spiritual quotient. Why? Because when all other quotients fail, the spiritual quotient stands up, supports. Sir,
Mr. Padmanabhan, I think I don't want to take too much time. I like.
thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Very, very important and very relevant. So let me
Sir.
go to the other extreme. Because Sri M himself has told about Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda's influence on me. The end of the day, all the yoga that we are talking about is for our self-realization.
Yes.
And when you're talking about self-realization, then the ultimate what you are talking is about samadhi.
About
Okay.
samadhi.
And he has been talking about samadhi state. Okay.
Yes.
In
Yes.
what way, today, if you look at it, people are so scared when you say, you'll have to be brahmachari. Brahmacharya,
Yeah.
I always remember Dr. Kalam saying,
Mm,
one of the things when somebody asked him,
mm,
him and Mr. Vajpayee, I
yeah,
think our previous foreign minister,
yeah,
Sushma was saying,
yeah.
unfortunately, this country is headed by two important people, both are bachelors. Okay.
Mm,
And I believe Dr. Kalam said, a
yeah.
correction,
Mm,
I am a brahmachari.
mm,
I'm not a bachelor, I'm a brahmachari.
mm.
And he explained. My
Mm.
only point in my today, people are so scared. The ones you say brahmacharya is important, but what you said, the Raja Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, brahmacharya is essential. Now, what do you think? How do you think that we can kind of get across this message
Let,
to,
let, let, let me
I don't
explain
know
this
whether I'm
word.
making sense. I don't know, but it's
I know,
something
I
I
know,
thought.
I know.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
get what you're saying. It's an important element in this.
yeah,
Many
yeah,
people are put off
yeah,
also.
yeah,
So let me explain this.
yeah.
See, yoga, Ashtanga yoga, for instance, has certain rules and regulations. The 8 of which yama niyamas 1 and 2 are important. Ahimsa and such things are discussed in yama niyama. One of them is brahmacharya. Right? Now, when you say brahmacharya, people are scared because they think, now please understand that brahmacharya and nitya brahmacharya, there are two words. Please understand. Hanuman is supposed to be a nitya brahmachari. The rishis who have given us the entire wisdom of the Vedas, including the Upanishads, which is the jewel in the crown of Vedas, none of them were nitya brahmacharis. Many of them are married, most of them. I can't find a single rishi, show me, who is unmarried. So please do not mistake brahmacharya with unmarried. This is what I'm trying to say. I'm married myself. Now, the word brahmacharya, let's look at it. Brahmacharya, the movement or the activity that takes you towards the Brahman. It need not necessarily be only celibacy, it has many other layers to it. Right? This is why in ancient times they divided the whole of life into 4 states, ashramas. One, the first ashrama is brahmacharya, which means that during the time of your teenage until you grow up into an adult, you saved a lot of your energy without indulging in unnecessary activities. It cannot be normal because you're not married, but still you have a sexual feelings. So how do we transform these feelings into something spiritual? In yogic terminology, also in Sankhya terminology, it is called converting the tejas into ojas. So the tejas is the energy which is in us. Now, what is it that a human being enjoys or expends most of his energy in a human life, apart from eating and drinking and what is the next sex? What happens in a sexual act? A lot of energy is used up, right? Now, the rishis must have been also aware of this. They had children. In fact, the great Rishi Yajnavalkya had 2 wives. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, part of it is his advice to Maitri, one of his wives. So, they learned the art of conserving their energies and using it only where required. This is brahmacharya. The ashrama's definition, brahmacharya is the younger stage when you are not yet married. So, from brahmacharya, you go to grahastha. From grahastha, you go to vanaprastha. From vanaprastha, you go to sannyas. Sannyas is not compulsory. You may or you may not take sannyas. because it's not easy for everybody to give up everything. Vanaprastha is a state. Many retired people do that actually. They leave the city and go and stay in some place near Kunur or Uthi or somewhere and lead a quiet life and do what they have to do. This is Vanaprastha. Now, if you add the knowledge of Upanishads and Shastras into it, then it becomes actual Vanaprastha. So, now the energy which is used in an act of sex is tremendous energy. Not only is it that it creates a new human being, physical, biological creation happens only after that energy is expended. So, where required, you may expend it. The yogi has the discipline to control it where required. If he can control it where required, this energy which is going waste can be converted into ojas, to higher energy, which means in strictly yoga tantra terms, the energy from the Muladhara can be collected and taken to the Sahasrara, which doesn't mean that you should not get married or not have children. No. Unless from childhood you have no interest in this life and you want to take sannyas, that's a different matter. But for most people in this context, brahmacharya means the capacity to control your sensations and use them where required and not use them where not required, so that you can use this tremendous energy for higher purposes. This is the meaning of brahmacharya. And when you begin to enjoy the inner, then you can get more control over this. It's because there is no other enjoyment that one gets caught up in that. Swami Vivekananda was a brahmachari, total. But Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was a married man, his guru.
Yeah.
Although he led a life like a brahmachari. So even if you are not married, I know many people who are not married, they're not brahmacharis.
Correct.
No. So what I'm trying to say is an unmarried man need not be a brahmachari. I don't know about Atalji. I haven't had a chat with him.
But he had told. No, he didn't say anything about Atalji.
I know.
He only told
Oh,
about himself.
Kalam Sahab, I never discussed this matter with him. He was a good friend of mine. He has even visited our school.
No, it
He
came in
opened
papers.
us. Huh? Maybe.
Actually,
No,
it
he's
came in
right.
papers.
Maybe he was a celibate. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I'm saying
Like
is
he says,
celibacy,
Kalamji. Yeah.
brahmacharya need not be associated with people who are unmarried, because there are many unmarried people in the West who have nothing to do
Yeah.
with brahmacharya.
Yeah. That is why he
Therefore,
said.
I'm
Yeah.
saying even a married
Yeah.
person, if he follows the
Yeah.
rules and laws of controlling his energies, he can still be called a brahmachari.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a new definition, but it's there.
Thank you so much, sir. So, how do you kind of say when we do actually the pranayama, other kind of things, being awareness, like we find two things, like when we say, yes, awareness of breathing is important when you are talking
Yes,
about
yes,
yoga practices.
yes,
I mean, I'm of the opinion, I won't know, please correct me if I'm wrong.
yes, yes,
It is those kind of things that eventually lead you to awareness, even about sex. Okay.
yes,
That
yes,
the moment you are able to be aware. Okay.
yes,
But
yes,
so can you kind of say, I don't know, this is my gut feeling. I won't know. I don't have
yes, sir.
any
Tell me,
background to say or no. Having
tell
read
me.
your book, so I'm inspired to ask you this question: how actually the practices, what you look mundane, actually lead through eventually to such greater things in life? Yeah.
So here,
Yeah.
when you say dharana, one pointed attention, it need not necessarily be one pointed attention to meditation as we normally know about it. In fact, there is a nice talk of Krishnamurti. I was associated with him also for many years, which says what is not meditation. And interesting to listen to this. Uh, I'm not discussing that now, but what I'm trying to say is dharana or attention and awareness need not be confined only to the spiritual and inner. Awareness should also be outside. See, we are so caught up in our activities, we are not aware of the little bird that is singing on the tree. We are not aware of the little new flower that has grown in the grass. We lead all our lives without awareness of these matters. In fact, I think many people, they're not even aware of how the face of their partner looks after 10 years of marriage. I don't know. Because we have an image and we project that image and we hold it there. We don't, the person might have changed, but we like to think of it as the same. This is kind of freezing our thoughts. This is not awareness. Awareness is an everyday affair, not only watching the breath. Of course, that is a sitting down exercise. Important, I agree with that, like Vipassana, watching yourself, awareness. But this awareness should also be in other things, in the outside world. When this awareness takes place, when we are aware of every little thing that's going on, then that is automatically meditation. Need not necessarily be meditating in inner, it can be outward also. Um, and you see, like, I must tell you this, there is this about awareness. There is a beautiful story about, there is a particular section of Vajrayana Buddhism, Tibetan, which is called Dzogchen teachings. Now, one Dzogchen teacher was with a disciple for many years. So one day the disciple said to the teacher, "What is this, master? I've been with you for so many years, but I haven't had the experience of Dzogchen. I have done everything that you asked me to do, but it's not happening." So the master said, "All right, you see the sack there, go and pick up some stones and fill the sack." He said, "Okay." Heavy load, sack full of brickbats, stones. He said, "Now put it on your shoulder." He said, "This is very heavy." I said, "You said you will do what I asked you to do, right?" "Yes, do it." So he put it. "Climb up that hill," he said. Climbed up the hill, he reached the top, and the top of the hill there's nothing but one single tree. The master very royally climbed up on the horse and reached there before him, waiting for him. This man came there and he said, "Now can I put it down?" He said, "Yes." So he threw it down. And then he was so tired, he went and sat under the tree, took a few deep breaths, looked around and said, "I got it." Can you see, he was carrying unnecessary load in his mind all these years, thinking that he has to find Dzogchen. Now he realized that if I threw this all down and sit and relax and have a deep breath, I have done. I'm aware of this entire universe and myself. So awareness is not only sitting down every day and watching the breath. That's part of the discipline, of course, but it's not everything. Awareness is to be aware of. Now you're sitting there. I'm aware of many things, sir. You're smiling. There's something. As soon as I saw you, I was aware of Swami Vivekananda's picture behind you. So also you must understand, the yogis are not people who live with their eyes closed to the world. In fact, their vision, I can see Tata Consultancy just behind, and there is a picture of Dadabhai Nauroji behind you. Sir, Suresh, Mr. Suresh Raman. So when you learn awareness, you're aware of the whole thing. You're not confining yourself to a closed space. I think that is a better definition of awareness.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. Thank you. Because I wanted to know, because there's two things now, like we say in a very mundane level yoga, and Swamiji talks about big thing. Where's the connection? Thank you very much for
Connection is also that we have to start somewhere in the mundane level and then slowly step to the beyond.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you. Suresh, Ram, we have question thing. Otherwise, we'll ask.
It's already 7 o'clock. But if you have some questions.
Yeah.
We can have one last question from each one of you. Then I move on to the question which has come from various social media portals. Maybe one question from each one of you.
Yes, sir. Suresh Ram.
Another 5 minutes we have.
Yeah,
start. 7 o'clock. Go ahead, Mr. Suresh. You have to unmute yourself.
I think MMA is an organization, I think, developing a lot of managers, future leaders. And if you can, if it's in a small way, just to excite people so that One is they go through the book and also start practicing. Can you recommend some simple things which is immediate takeaways so that they get excited about this and start dealing with situations, relationships, and challenges in the day-to-day life? And any quick thing which excites them to get into this?
Yes. The quick thing is that the moment you start studying and understanding and practicing, you realize that you have vast potentials which you didn't even dream that you possessed. This is the thing. This is the key. There's a vast potential in us which can be opened up, which we don't know. We usually go around with blindfolds. We can open it up, and you'll see when you have a vast potential, infinite energy flows. So I would encourage everyone to take up not only reading this book is one of the books written, but on the understanding of the philosophy and practice of yoga. That's my answer to your question.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
So, one of the things I liked about the book is the way you said yoga also for the godless. But then it's very interesting because that's exactly what Gautama Buddha practiced.
Yes,
Because Gautama Buddha never talked about personal God. So
absolutely.
Swami Vivekananda rates him much higher than all other,
Yes, of course he
gods.
did.
Because he says he's the only person who did good without expecting anything. You know, so
In fact,
so I thought I want your thing, sir. Yeah, on that.
since we are on the subject,
Yeah.
Swami Vivekananda was a great admirer of Adi Shankara.
Yeah.
Because Vedantic teachings that are there till the age of 30, the man had done such tremendous work that you cannot even imagine. Right. On the other hand, he admired the Buddha
Yeah.
also for his heart, for his
Yes.
compassion. And he made a beautiful statement which every human being, if we can follow at least 10%, he said, what a wonderful thing it would have been to have the brain, intelligence of a Shankara and the heart of the Buddha. He said, the compassion of the Buddha. It is like no one else other than Swami Vivekananda can put these words in such concise terms. This is what he said. So I think while expanding your mind, expanding your intellect, expanding your understanding is all good, let's not forget the compassion which needs to develop. This is very important. This is the message I have to give you, that in a short way, let's not think that it is all an intellectual thing. There is the heart that has to be there, without which we won't even share what we have with others.
Yeah. I think that's a very interesting point what you made, the rat race today. And but in terms of calamities like floods, cyclone, or even the current pandemic, the way people come together to help others,
Yes.
and that shows that they go beyond and try to do a lot of things that beyond their capabilities also. Or
Sir, if there is no compassion, then we are not human beings,
yes,
actually.
Correct.
One of the things that happens in a spiritual person, apart from his getting to know more dimensions and expanding his mind, is that he begins to think of the other, not only himself. If one doesn't think of the other, we are no better. Some people tell us we do our duties, we look after our children and we are happy. I said, listen, monkeys also do that. In fact, the mother monkey carries the little baby on his stomach and jumps up the trees. It looks after it. It's no big deal. But if you are looking after somebody else's child, then you are a human being.
yeah.
Monkey looks after its own child.
Correct.
We are no better than that. I'm not saying you shouldn't look after your children. What I mean to say,
Yeah.
the sign of an expanding mind is that it embraces all together.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Thank you
Thank
so much for
Thank-
saying so nicely. Yeah. Now over to our group captain. Yeah.
Thank you, TM. And it's been a very fascinating listening to you. And we got so many questions which has come, and a couple of them have come in the chat box.
Sir, but we
I'm
have
happy to share.
Huh?
I'm happy to share with you. We got another half an hour time. We'll try and
Oh, we
accommodate
have?
as many questions.
Okay.
Yes, we are programmed till 7:30.
I'm asking my
Okay.
program specialist how much more time.
I hope we can go for another 15, 20 minutes.
Yes,
Is
sir.
it
Yes,
okay?
sir. No problem.
Yeah, we have over 1,350 people have logged in watching this
Oh
program.
my God.
Yes, the YouTube, Facebook, and I got a number of questions. We also got a couple of questions from the chat box. Let me start with the question which has come from Nagpur, from one of the person watching the program in YouTube. He says, "What is the difference between spirituality and mindfulness or meditation? Are gratitude and forgiveness within a spiritual context different from the same virtues within a secular context?"
Yes. When you forgive and forget and move on in the uh, worldly contest, it means you are doing something which is for peace and which is convenient for us, and it's causing us too much trouble and pain to keep on thinking of not forgiving. Therefore, we forgive and say we move on. But in the spiritual context, there is a difference. If a person is truly understood and realized his inner self, if that person sees the spark of the inner self in all other beings. So it's not as if he's forgiving, there's nothing to forgive, there's nothing to forget. You see, look, sir, I see my reflection in you, and you are as important as I am. So I carry on with life saying it's okay. So while action may be the same, the inspiration from which the action springs is different. In fact, I call that Vedantic socialism. All other socialism has failed in this world. There is one which has survived, and which it is Swami Vivekananda's words, Vedantic socialism. He said, I am a socialist not because I love socialists, but because at least I am assured of half a loaf of bread rather than none. So what he means is that when I see the spark of the divine in myself, automatically I see the spark of the divine in another. So when I do some service to another, I don't think it's a great privilege that I'm doing it to myself. I hope. So the inspiration is different, although the action may seem to be the same.
Thank you. There's a question from the chat box on my Air Force veteran, A. Nair. What you want to know is
Which Nair, sir? Is it my friend Nair, or is it
KNV Nair? You know him, KNV? Yes.
KNV Nair?
I can admin. Can you put KNV Nair unmute and bring his video on, please?
Is it
KNV
KNV
Nair?
Nair?
Yes.
Air Commodore.
Yes, A. Nair. His
My
question
old
is
friend.
how to connect with various asanas with the ultimate purpose of yoga. It is like, what should the mind be focused on while doing asana? I think you should
Yes.
focus only on asana, but your mind doesn't do that actually.
Yeah. So in the beginning, of course, the mind doesn't concentrate on the asanas, it moves. But as you perfect your asanas, then your mind is in complete synchronicity with your postures. It takes time. It, when you start, when you're doing Sarvangasana, your legs are up and your head is down and your shoulders, but your mind is somewhere else. Oh, what is the time when I have to leave? As you practice and begin to enjoy the asanas, then your mind is there exactly where you're practicing. That is required for an asana to become perfect. Therefore, which means the corollary to this is, don't attempt asanas which cause you too much pain and discomfort in the beginning. Start with asanas which keep you without much pain. In fact, Patanjali describes asanas as sthira sukham asanam, that posture which gives you comfort for a length of time is called your asana. Patanjali has not described any asanas in the Yoga Sutras. You have to go through the Hatha Yoga Pradipika or some other text to learn the asanas. That's my answer to to Group Captain Nair.
Nair, yes, Ekamoto Nair.
Nair, sorry. sorry. He's going to send me a WhatsApp saying, why have you demoted me?
In fact, Nair is very interesting personality, sir. We did a lot of courses together. He's a brilliant.
Oh, you did? He's very interesting because there is not a single Air Force station where I haven't gone in and barged in.
Oh, really? Lovely.
We are school friends.
Oh, you studied science school, sir?
No, I
He's
went to model school. He went to Chinese school from model school.
model school. Okay, okay, sir. We did a lot of things together in the Air Force. Very brilliant colleague, great officer. So
Yes.
here is a question from Trichy, Shankar from Trichy. What do you want to know is, does mindfulness training actually improve leadership capacities? If it does, how? And how much effort do you need to make to achieve results with the mindfulness and leadership? Actually, this is a
This is
question. Yes.
yeah. This is somewhat the similar to what Mr. Padmanabhan was discussing, which is mindfulness. Now, mindfulness people usually mistake to be only that act which we do when we sit down and meditate. Mindful. I'm mindful of all that's happening to. Mindfulness is also mindful of everything that is happening to you in daily life with your eyes open. This is also mindfulness. Suppose I'm sitting down and meditating, my eyes are closed, and I'm only thinking of the Supreme and so on. And if I don't hear a child crying out of hunger, then I have no mindfulness. So, mindfulness is an overall thing. You're mindful of yourself, you're also mindful of the outer world. So, both together is called mindfulness, not just sitting down and being mindful of your breath. If this is practiced, then your mind is expanding. Take your mindfulness also to the outer world where you live and where you function.
Here is a question from Mr. Vetrivel. Again, is from chat box. He
Right.
says, "Sir, for individual improvement, which one is the right fit? Whether the self-confidence or self-realization, and
Say that again, the
how do we
question.
realize it?" Again,
Sir, what is that question again? Please
the
repeat
question
it, sir.
is for individual improvement, which one is the right fit? Whether the self-confidence or the self-realization, and how to realize it? Actually, you want to know that how can you achieve this
This
practice?
question is a little bit muddled up for me. I
Yes.
can't get this because self realization is one thing and self confidence is another thing. Self confidence, when a person is self realized, of course, is fully self confident, no question. But that is not because he has been trying to develop self confidence, but because he has found that ultimately there is nothing to be not confident about. It's a different thing. However, if you are trying to develop self confidence, that's a different story altogether. You are saying that it's okay, failure is a stepping stone to success, and so on, and you're trying to develop self confidence. Self realization is an entirely different term from self confidence. Although, I would say that if a person truly is self realized, then he's automatically self confident. There's nothing to worry there.
Excellent. Here's a question from Sridhar. He says,
From
during the asanas, Mr. Sridhar, from the chat box only, sir.
okay.
During the asana, the mind is not focused and keep wondering about other thought processes. How do we overcome this and focus only on asana, which you
I think
practice?
a previous question had answered this.
Yes,
The
yes,
same
absolutely
thing.
true.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. There is also a question from Mr. Venkateshan. He says, Sadhguru advocates that Lord Shiva is Adi Yogi and he is Brahmananda Swarup. Whether Patanjali has mentioned that in Shiv is Adi Yogi, I just want to only
In
enlightenment on
Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, there is no such mention of an Adi Yogi. That much only I can tell you. I don't know what other people are saying, but certainly in the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, there is neither a mention of Shiva nor is there a mention of Adi Yogi. But if you say, because Shiva among the deities represents a yogi, and therefore first among the yogis, yes, but it is not mentioned anywhere in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali.
This is a question again come from Mr. Jabalpur, one Mr. Pratap. He says, beyond meditation, how leaders can put mindfulness into action. He also asks, many corporate leaders are hesitant to speak of spirituality at all within the workplace due to its religious implications, and that legal ramification may also result at times. Actually. So, how can this issue can be addressed and resolved?
I still couldn't get the question, sir.
The question is, sir, uh, many corporate leaders are hesitant to speak of spirituality at all within the workplace due to its religious implications
Yes.
and the legal ramification sometimes result. How
I got
can
it.
we come across?
I got it. The other day, I know a person who says, who wanted to go to a temple with me. I love going to temples. Just now, I spent 5 days all around Kumbakonam going to all the temples, Chidambaram. So this guy likes to go to them. He was coming with me. Suddenly, he disappeared. In one of the temples, he was not seen. I said, where is he gone? He came after 2 hours. I said, what happened? He said, no, I was just going to go and I saw my boss. Then he'll think I'm a religious person, so I just escaped. What is this? I mean, so your religion should not be because of the fear of your boss. If you're religious, you're religious. If you're not religious, you're not religious. There are no legal implications here. Legal implications are there. If you criticize another religion, somebody might file a case, even if it is right or wrong. The criticism is right or wrong, somebody can take legal steps and pull you to go, oh, he abused my religion, because in India, all are considered equal and so on and so forth. But actually, it doesn't mean anything, because one should be brave enough to talk about yoga, for instance, in your workplace, even if is been written in Sanskrit. And please do not consider Sanskrit to be a language of a particular religion. It's an ancient language with even mathematics has been worked out in it. So it's not a religious bias. You understand? I speak Sanskrit, I talk in Sanskrit, I chant Sanskrit, I read. Is that because I am some kind of a fanatic? No. So this has to be understood. I think by and large, many people in the corporate world are beginning to understand this. I'm sure. And as they understand it, this kind of fear will slowly disappear. And if you have a conviction, you should be ready to stand by the conviction. Otherwise, there is no conviction.
Brilliant, Swami. Brilliant, sir. Now, can I tell Sheikh, can you please, Ekamror Nair, you can take him on screen, unmute him, please. Nair, can you please unmute and switch on your video? We would like to have a look at you. So we'll go to the next question. Meanwhile, they do that work, sir. Here's a question from, again, one of our members from Chennai. How do you combine change management with mindfulness, and how can mindfulness help us through our organizational change to build change resiliency during COVID-19?
Say that again, sir.
How do you combine change management with the mindfulness?
I can't believe that this is Air Commodore Velas Nair. He looks older than me.
He's become very old, sir, because he's...
Sir, he is 1 year younger than me. This is not possible.
Nair, sir, I think you have to do some yoga very seriously now.
I am doing yoga. It's not, but this is not the effect of yoga. Anyway.
yoga without boga, sir, actually. Yes.
But probably I should have started yoga when I first met M, because that was in my childhood. And maybe I would have been a better looking person now.
No, you're looking good. But yeah, I thought you were somebody else, actually. Because the hair is all become completely gray. Even my hair has become gray.
Yes.
But, there is some...
Very interesting to
you don't look like your usual self, because in your WhatsApp, you look better in the profile.
WhatsApp, you put the picture what you like, sir.
That's correct.
Here the camera shows the reality.
Yeah.
So, the next question is, how do you combine change management with mindfulness? How can mindfulness help us through our organizational change to build change, resiliency, and other factors during COVID-19?
Yeah, mindfulness is the first step in mindfulness is to be mindful of our own weaknesses, of our own shortcomings. This is the beginning of mindfulness. If that is understood, then certainly we know how to correct it. And if you know how to correct it, then we are making changes in the system and we are making changes in the organization. So mindfulness is not merely, as I keep repeating this, mindfulness is not merely sitting in meditation and being mindful. Mindfulness is to be mindful of our own shortcomings, our own weaknesses, and try to work on them. If you do that, if I can't cure myself, I cannot cure the organization. You know the old saying, physician, heal thyself. Jesus Christ. So, this is very important note. But sir, now it is already time.
Last question, sir. Shall we take one last question? Is it okay?
There is the local MLA is waiting for me outside.
Okay. Then we'll leave. The question is very simple. Question. It looks like I think we won't disappoint the person who asked.
Quick.
What do you want to know? What is the first step to? No, not. He says, does yoga require the help of an instructor, or can it be taught, self-taught? This is, I thought many people ask this.
While it can be self-taught, but I would always suggest that you have an instructor. Today, the scene has changed. Instructor need not be physically with you. You can use internet. But if you want to practice yoga just through books and notes, it's not, well, if there's nothing else, okay. But if it is possible, either get an actual teacher face-to-face or do it on the internet. Because then you know exactly what's happening, not just what is written in the paper. So I would suggest, yes, you should have an instructor, but the instructor need not be facing you. You can also do it through the internet. Today, technology is improved. So we can do many things on Zoom, for instance. So I would prefer that. I would advise. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And I'll take a minute more. Thanks to Shweta Westland. She's also joined us for facilitating this. On behalf of MMA, on behalf of Suresh and Mr. Padmanabhan, this is a time we would like to present a small memento on behalf of each one of us. This is what we do. We, on your behalf, we'll present 300 face masks to the needy people. I think the vaccine has already arrived, but still the vaccine is really implemented. I thought this is the best way to help the people. And thank you, Mr. M. It's so nice of you to have taken time to be joining with us. I know.
So my last minute advice: as soon as the vaccine comes, everybody should take it.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Mr. Suresh and Padmanabhan. All of you are watching this program.
Thank you,
sir. And it's a pleasure.
Thank all of you. Thank you, Nair.
Thank you,
sir.
thank you.